All right. Good morning. It's Wednesday, the 19th of August, and this is Steve Weber. I'm the host of the American Gumption morning show being broadcast on Spirituality Gone Wild and also on the American Gumption YouTube and Facebook pages. So if you're not already signed up, please do sign up. So yeah, welcome Wednesday. And today is show number 13. I was thinking about that. Are you a superstitious person? I'm not really. One of those crazy things we learn is that number 13 is an unlucky number. And then we go around believing it. And, we look for things to prove that 13 isn't lucky. So if you're, the law of attraction brings us what we want. And so if we're told as children that 13 is unlucky, then on the 13th, you look for unlucky stuff. So I'm going to say that today's a lucky day, and here we go into our show. So, hey, I've got a kind of a fun show planned today. I'm going to bring on Ondrea Lynn, who is the author of the book Born Enough, and she's going to just published it a year ago and instantly became a bestseller, and had a chance to get to know Ondrea the last few weeks, and we're going to talk about that and figure out why we are born enough and what is the holistic blueprint to remembering. So, and I'm going to not try to steal any of her thunder, but my monologue and a Forrest Gump life lesson is going to tie into that very theme. So hopefully I'll tee it up for her to take it off from there. So, that is, so that's what's happening on today's show. I want to just also tease Friday's show. We're going to have Bettina Carey joining us, and she is in charge of the founder of the Women's Empowerment Marketplace, and she is producing virtual summits 4 times a year. She did the first one in June, I think it was June 10th, and the next one is coming up on September 9th, and she has figured out a way. She is ahead of the curve as far as this virtual thing and preparing online events, and so she's going to share that with us. So that's an exciting thing, and I actually attended her virtual summit on June the 10th, and it's a women's empowerment summit, but it's also for brave men. And so I consider myself a brave man and joined in, and it will do that on Friday. All right. I've been mentioning the last 2 days that I'm involved with a tech challenge. My friend and coach and mentor, Tamara Fleming, is the designer of meaningofspace.com and Space Love Club, the private group. And Tamara was very instrumental in helping me get rid of all my stuff last year when I left Montana. And of course, I ended up doing, the work, but she provided a group that I was able to share what was going on in my head when I was getting rid of all that stuff. And then, of course, the group became like a support system. And so her whole thing is that our space ends up directly affecting our mindset. And I know that our guest, Ondrea, is going to talk about how the mind and the soul and the body all connect. And so, we are like programmed little machines and our physical environment, our body environment, all affects what goes on in our thinking and in our soul. So this is going to be a fun day. But anyway, back to the meaning of space. This week is the 5-day tech challenge. And she does these 5-day challenges once a quarter. And this week is the tech challenge. And so cleaning up my desktop, cleaning up my file folders and files within those folders. And that was Monday's day, the desktop. Yesterday was the file folders. Not sure what's on the agenda today, but I'm keeping going with it. So she's giving us great ideas on how to get better organized. And since I just started the American Gumption morning show a couple of weeks ago, I have all this new content and with guests and procedures and files that I'm preparing and getting ready, and I need a great way to keep track of it and organize it and keep up with it every day. Because I don't know about you, but I've had my desktop be filled with, my computer desktop has at one point had like maybe 1,000 folders. They were stacking up on top of each other. Have you ever had it where folders stack up on top because there's no more space for them to fit on the desktop? That's not a great way to work. And the way I worked was I would just do like last files used and accessed, and I would just sort of go down the list, and I'd find what I was looking for because what I was working on. And then after it became like 100 files deep or 1,000, sometimes I'd remember and go back to them, but they were all just junk. And so anyway, I've over the last year, I've been getting a better handle on that, but this week's an opportunity to improve that. So, and since we're all working on our computers a lot more these days, as we've become more of a virtual world, connecting by this communication medium, it's important that we keep, we have systems. Otherwise, we just have chaos, and then that doesn't help your psyche when you look at your computer desktop, and it's just a big giant mess. So I understand that. I don't necessarily. I'm working towards getting better and better at that. So, all righty. So now let's shift gears, and I have another movie life lesson. I mentioned this will be the third time I've done it, but last year I ended up producing 94 little video clips, vignettes from the movie, and these 94 movie life lessons, were what I considered to be the best scenes or the most impactful scenes from the movie. And I could have put 200 because it's that good of a movie, but I chose 94, and the movie came out in 94, so that's why I chose 94. Last year was the 25th anniversary of the movie, so on July 6th, 2019 was the 25th anniversary. So at the end of March, I started on 94 days before June 6th, and I counted down, and I had a video each day. So today is scene number 75. I decided it was the 75th best scene from the movie. And the name of the scene is Forrest, You're No Different. It's his mama talking to young Forrest. So let's watch. Well, we're trying to make it watch. Let's see. On July 6th, here we go. 2019, the 25th anniversary of the movie Forrest Gump. I'm Steve Weber, and I'm happy to be sharing these scenes with you. Forrest is no different than anyone else. Forrest was a natural storyteller. He explained about the house he lives, where it was located, and how Mama would rent out rooms for money.
We lived about a quarter mile off Route 17. About a half mile from the town of Greenbow, Alabama. That's in the county of Greenbow. Our house had been in Mama's family since her grandpa's grandpa had come across the ocean about 1,000 years ago, something like that. Since it was just me and Mama, and we had all these empty rooms, Mama decided to let those rooms out. Mostly the people passing through, like from Mobile, Montgomery, place like that. And that's how me and Mama got money. Mama was a real smart lady.
Remember what I told you, Forrest. You're no different than anybody else.
Mama was practicing repetition for both herself and for Forrest.
What I said, Forrest. You're the same as everybody else. You are no different.
Important messages need to be repeated. Mama Gump was boosting the confidence of young Forrest and herself when she repeated the words that Forrest was no different than anyone else. Mama was practicing repetition for both herself and for Forrest. It takes gumption to boost the confidence of ourselves and of others. Let's all be more Mama Gump-like. Let's all practice positive self-talk for both ourselves and for the sake of others. And let's all live our lives with gumption. All righty. So Mama said to Forrest, you're no different to anyone else. You're no different than anyone else. And what's kind of a funny little transition in the movie is the immediate next scene shows Mama speaking with the principal at the school, and the principal says, your boy's different. And so mama says, you're no different than anyone else. And then the principal says, your boy's different. And that's the way life goes. You know, we get told we're different, and then we believe it. And we are all different, but we somehow interpret different as being a bad thing. So, you know, and then you end up growing up and you believe you're different. And then you end up going to therapy for the next 30 years, and hopefully you straighten yourself out. But hey, that's the way it goes. So anyway, today's monologue ties into really to Ondrea's book. We are born perfect and we learn to be imperfect. And I learned this lesson back in 2009 when I was going through my year of transformation, and that whole idea that we are perfect beings when we're born, but then we somehow learn to be different. And since I've been living back in Pennsylvania since the end of October, I'm staying at my sister's house, and her grandkids come once a week and spend the day. And so it's great being around these, you know, a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 6-year-old, and they are perfect, and yet they're learning to be imperfect. You're teaching kids how to, fit in with society, but you look at the little youngsters, like the 2-year-olds, the infants, the brand new babies, and then the 1-year-old and 2-year-old, and they don't care. They're just happy. They're just cheerful and joyful. And then, you discipline them, and next thing you know, they end up with, beliefs that 13 is an unlucky number and that they're different than someone else. So, my own situation was that I had older brothers and sisters, 7 and 5 years older than me. And, I ended up believing that they were smart. And so I somehow kind of thought, well, geez, smart is taken. I can't be smart. I must not be smart, or I'll never catch up to them in terms of being smart. They've got a 7-year and a 5-year head start. So I ended up, at a young age, forming a strategy that I would be social. And so actually social served me very well. I'm able to do what I would do today because I'm a social creature. I love meeting and interviewing people, and sitting on the bench for 15 years was the dream job as Forrest Gump, because I just got to meet people and I loved it. And so social has been a very good thing, but you still had that kind of underlying belief that, gee, I'm not smart enough. And that showed up many times in my life. Of course, that's not true. We all have our own abilities and our own skills. So, but we learn those things. And so what I ended up really learning from this, when I started on my spiritual path, was that there are, you end up learning how to, what to believe at this young age, and then you live your life believing that. And so you end up having to unlearn what you learned. And so that's really, I think that's what Ondrea is going to share in our conversation, and when she talks about her book. So yeah, it's great, a great lesson. And so one of the great things about, the movie Forrest Gump is that it has so many of these life lessons. And so that little snippet that I showed where Mama Gump is saying, you're no different than anyone else, it ties into what we do learn as children. And Mama was trying to, raise the confidence of her son. He was lucky that he had a mother who believed in him and encouraged him. And that actually did sustain him, because certainly he didn't get it from his classmates. Lots of his classmates were mean to him, bullied him around. The teachers didn't believe him. The high school coach didn't believe in him, didn't put him on the football team, even though he was the fastest kid in town. And then, so it's just funny how life works. We end up growing up believing things. And then all of a sudden someone comes along, some mentor, some person in our lives, and they say, they tell us something that's completely opposite from what we've been taught to believe. And then we go, oh my gosh, this person believes in me. I don't have to, I am smart. I am skilled at whatever task or job. I can do that. And it's exactly opposite from what we had grown up believing all along. And so these are just stories we make up. So, without a whole lot more, I see our guest is in the green room. I would like to welcome her here just even a few minutes earlier than normal, because we've got a lot to talk about. I think she's finished we have very delicious treats, pastries, and coffee, and actually fresh fruit is probably the more appropriate thing for our guest today. She did not eat any of the pastries, and maybe she had some tea. I don't know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring her on screen as I always do. We're going to introduce her, and then we're going to play the intro welcome, first time guest theme song to welcome. So hello, Ondrea. How are you doing this morning? I'm
good. Thanks, Steve, for having me.
Yeah, great. Well, welcome here to the American Gumption Morning Show. And was everything okay in the back in the green room? Did you find everything to your liking?
Totally fine. And there was no junk food, only food that was alive.
All righty. Well, very good. Well, here's the way it works. I've got a little bio. I'm going to introduce who you are, and then we're going to play the first time guest welcome song. So this is a special thing. So if you are to ever come back again, you'll never have this song played because it's only for first time guests. And so consider it very special. So anyway, here is who Ondrea is. Ondrea Lynn has been honing her intuitive and empath gifts since 2007, supporting individuals to release suffering that has been impacting their bodies and turning their big dreams into reality. Ondrea has helped thousands of people reach their personal health and wellness goals and improve their physical and nutritional health, as well as their emotional and spiritual well-being. Very good. Ondrea's book is titled Born Enough, The Holistic Blueprint to Remembering. And within 2 days of being published, it became an Amazon bestseller. I have a book in my future, and I'm going to find out how she did that. And she's going to tell me. It
was really like 6 hours, Steve.
Oh, it was 6 hours. Right? I said it took 2 days. 6 hours. My goodness. All righty. Here's one of the 5-star reviews. And there was nothing but 5-star reviews on from your book. That is amazing. That is really amazing. Here's one of them, though. This book has such vulnerable personal shares from the author, as well as an incredible insight on how to truly connect the body to the mind and spirit. So, and that really is what your book is all about, is connecting the body and the mind and the spirit together. So let's play the theme song, and then we'll get into the book. All righty. Let's see. Here we go. I think I remember how to do this. Have you ever had a marching band welcome you onto a show before?
No, I feel like I should stand up and salute, though. That's awesome.
Well, very good. Yeah. Hey, it's American Gumption, and so we're bringing in some Americana theme songs, and it just seems like fun. And so, and if you do, we've gotten to be friends the last couple of weeks, and when we met off camera, we realized that there was a whole lot of topics that we could go deeper on. So hopefully, you'll come back and join us again, and maybe we'll have to find your own theme song to welcome you back. So that's kind of the spirit. So is there a particular style of music that you like? I'll start researching that and find that when we bring you back.
Ooh, all right. Yeah. I mean, I like very artists that are really not known, like, I think we talked about this a little bit, but Mary Isis, Rising Appalachia, those are really awesome female artists that aren't known, but they sing with so much heart and soul in it.
All right. We'll get our team on to go making that happen.
That sounds great.
So tell us about Born Enough. I mean, and I hope I didn't steal any of your thunder with my monologue.
No.
But I just saw that. I remembered Mama Gump telling Forrest, you're no different than anybody else. Because here he is, like he's probably, he's coming home and he's going, Mama, I'm different. The kids don't like me. And she's trying to boost him up, and she's trying to boost herself up too, with that. And so, yeah, life's hard. It's hard being a parent, raising kids. And so you are a parent, but you also had parents, and you had a grandmother who was very influential in your life. Tell us a little bit about your early story.
My grandmother, as Steve knows, because he read the book, so thank you, Steve. The book was dedicated to my grandmother. She is still on this earth, but she's not the same. She's older, and she's lost her a little bit. But it was interesting when I said to her, "Hey, Graham, I wrote this book and I dedicated it to you." And I read her story, basically. And the first time I read it, she was in the hospital, actually, peering out the window. And I remember reading it to her, and I was trying not to cry, because I still read that story and I cry so deeply, because I feel for her. She never, as of yet, right? Anything can happen, but she hasn't yet found that worthiness within her. She has always struggled. And the first time I read it, she was peering out the window of the hospital room, and she was really taking in all the words and listening to her life. And the one part about my grandfather, she just kind of went, and, moved along. But then when I read it again to her, because she didn't remember, she cried, and she said, I can't hear that too much. And I part of me was like, hear it, make these changes, feel your worth before you leave this body. We can all do it, right? In a second. All we have to do is one moment to remember that we came from an infinite source that is divine and perfect. And so I guess that was my inspiration, is watching her. She was a big part of raising me. My mom was a, single mom here and there. She was married and divorced 3 times, my mom. So my grandmother was like the rock for me in my life. And there was so much, as I started to reflect about my unworthiness, that she mirrored to me. And I realized I would like to be different. Not that anything's wrong with Grandma, though, Grandma could do it a little better. And I thought, well, the family line, our bloodlines are there for us to learn, right? We don't have to repeat the patterns. We don't have to live in that, stuck DNA. We can make that better. And that's what I wanted to do for myself, but also for my kids. And believe me, I am not a perfect mom by any means. My kids have lots to say about my crap, but my goal is to make them feel that they're worthy.
Yeah, you mentioned, and we'll get to this in a little bit, that the idea that your kids are your teachers, and you became the teacher for your grandmother. And I think the story, I'm going to just fill a little bit in, just so the audience would understand. Your grandmother was born obviously in a very different time, and women served, their men in a way that is different today. And so she wasn't able to really, ever blossom into who she was. She was just always, working towards it. And your grandfather wasn't a perfect man. And so there was a suffering, and there was a denial of joy and beauty. And yet, you came along, and, you filled a bit, you gave her something to focus on, and, give her life meaning for that time when she was such a strong influence on your life.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that was perfectly said, Steve. See, this is why you're the best guest or host.
Well, I did enjoy reading the book, and there was a lot of vulnerable shared you did it. And it wasn't just about you. It was about different clients. Obviously names were changed and, you know, but it really was, you know, people end up believing something about themselves that isn't true, but they believe it, and then they live their life as if that is really the truth, and you help them see that there's a different way to think about it or believe something different. Is there any one or two stories that you feel like you could share on where you helped somebody else where they really were believing one thing, but you just with this simple conversation you get them to start believing something else?
Yeah, there's one, as soon as you said that, there's one that really comes to mind, and I don't remember the false name I gave her in the book, so I won't give a name, but it's a female, of course, because that's the majority of who I help. So she came to me and she tried to get pregnant quite a few times and kept having miscarriages. So I said, okay, well, let's explore the body, right? Let's explore this. And like you said in the beginning, I take the approach of the body, the mind, and the spirit, because when all those are aligned, then you have optimal health and wellness. So we started to talk, you know, the conversation is like, so what was going on? And being intuitive, sometimes I could just kind of pinpoint, hey, what happened around this age in your life, usually childhood? Because there's some trauma there, and the body holds trauma. You know, the body, especially if that trauma is playing the story in our subconscious mind, the body doesn't realize that you're now 20 years ahead of it. It still feels like it's in that moment. So here she has trauma from childhood of abuse, sexual abuse, that came up, and she was kind of just burying that, like it's over, it's over, it's over. But unfortunately, the body was still remembering it. So it couldn't, you know, hold and create what she was wanting to create. So anyway, with just exploration of her story, of her feelings, of what was going on in the mind that was kind of locked there, she wasn't aware of it, we were able to get through that. Obviously, this took quite a few months. But the other thing is what happened, I remember it was just so cool because I always practice on myself, but then when I have somebody else that shows up and I just intuitively say, hey, like the body wants to move like this to start to liberate some of that unworthiness. And hers was held in her lower pelvic, lower belly area. So I said, let's do this. So I have a background I'm a personal trainer, along with life coach, health coach, like all those things. So I said, let's do this. And so I said, let's set the intention to unwind the unworthiness that sits in your lower belly. And she said, okay, let's do it. And so we started doing these exercises, which are in my book. That's part of the blueprint. And all of a sudden she goes, what's going on? What's going on? And her body started to tremble. And I thought, oh God, I don't know what's going on. But, you know, this was like right before my eyes, I can see the trauma kind of unwinding here. And I said, just relax. We're fine. You're fine. Tell your body you're fine. This trauma is just, like I said, it's a memory and it's just unwinding itself and you're worthy. And so as soon as she felt safe enough to do that, obviously she knew me, we worked together for quite a few months. The body stopped trembling and she went home and she said, I feel so much different. And little by little, every day, she was devoting, you know, how she can spark remembering that she is worthy. And so that started to kind of reset the body and the new patterns that she had, but all stemmed from sexual abuse from her childhood, that she still was suffering today. And, you know, if you read my book, I also have the sexual abuse component in my life. You know, I was abused by a family member. And that just really sits there for a long, long, long time. And I wish I could just wave a magic wand for all of us women who have had that experience and just make it better. Though I realize that experience makes us stronger. And it, if anything, helps us remember that we're worthy, you know, that we don't have to live in that story.
I think it's important that we recognize what you're saying in that the body ends up becoming like almost a memory. It becomes a memory and a subconscious memory of it. And so the idea of like going through and repeating the trauma verbally, like in a psychiatric couch kind of way, isn't necessarily the important thing. There has to be a little bit of that, but the more important thing is, how do you take what is now imprinted into your physical being and release it? And once that releases it, the memory, can still be there, but it's no longer like running the underlying program.
Exactly.
And
yes.
so this is huge. I mean, and this is the
huge.
quantum.
Yeah.
This is the quantum portion of
exactly. Well, like you said, I think it's important for us to know, right, that if you think of the brain as a computer system, you're changing the software, you're upgrading the software, and the computer system runs through this whole vessel that we're in. And like Steve said, if you take quantum physics, and I talk about this a lot, it's in my book too, when I talk about the body and I put the body under the lens, you have the body, right? It's made up of 9 systems: endocrine, respiratory. So it has these systems. And when you start to break down the systems, you have organs, and you have tissues, and you have molecules, you have atoms. And when you break down atoms, there's subatomic particles. And if we just go back to kind of what Einstein said, energy can never be created or destroyed. It can be transformed. So the energy, this is it. It's proven in quantum physics. You can start to upgrade the software and transform this whole system.
And your friend that you were discussing, you saw her instantly go through that physical change. And so that's the energy that was suddenly being released. And it wasn't like instantaneously, like it happened, but it did happen instantaneously in that it started, and it took it took a few days or a few weeks, but it really, like that moment in time, it did instantaneously happen. You witnessed it. And then within short time that was released, and that memory that she still has is kind of like neutralized, or
yes, exactly,
potent. It just can't. It doesn't have that same effect. Whereas that memory had that energy locked within her. And part of the monologue I did earlier when I talked about the tech challenge and my friend Tamara Fleming, she works in the same concept, but more in the physical space around you. So your environment and the stuff that you keep in your house, and you're actually working, more from the body itself. So all these things affect us. And, memories of, if you hang pictures on the wall that have bad memories for you, like, why are they there reminding you? And you can get rid of them. And so anyway, it's
exactly. And I feel like what you said before, unlearn what you learned. So somehow the mind learned, okay, there's trauma, and this is how I'm going to respond to this. And now you're unlearning through the mind. The mind is the tool between, the body is just the conduit between heaven and earth. And so the mind is really in the center. So if you're unlearning that, then you can be a different conduit, between heaven and earth. And my big message, like why I want people to feel their worth, is because we all have something we're supposed to do here on this planet, or we wouldn't be here right now. And so when you can stop getting tripwired on not feeling worthy, then you can say, okay, let me just take some steps and make this happen.
You shared some of the stories of your own journey, and you were a young adult, and you wanted to, you went off to New York to be a dancer, and you were perfect. You were born enough. You knew what you were doing, and yet, it's a kind of a tough business. And so nice people said things like, you're no Ford model. And, it destroys a young person on their path to try to do that. And you didn't have the tools that you have today, to deal with that. So like somebody says that to you today, and you kind of, it bounces off. But back then it destroys, a 21 or 22-year-old person. Yeah.
Well, I graduated high school at 17 and went off to Manhattan to performing arts college. So I was very young, jumping into living in Manhattan for, from 17 to 24. And like you said, being told you're no Ford model, you're too fat, you're too short. I mean, you name it, I was told that.
Yeah.
And, when I look back, it's a hard industry. Yes, I get that. But also what they were, because everybody is a mirror image of you, right? It's like God wearing a mask. And they were mirroring to me what I was feeling inside. So they were really, really loud because inside I was like, yeah, I'm not worthy. I feel so horrible about myself. But I just kept getting up and, going through the motion every day. But in a way, when I think back, it's like, well, they were really mirroring to me what I was feeling inside. If I had the tools then, I would, been able to not just stuff them. I could stuff it here in my neck and stuff it there in my low back. Yeah.
So you said you got up and you went and did it, and it reminded me of my journey and when I was trying to work hard, change matter with matter, and didn't understand the quantum and the mindset of changing things. And it's like hard work, and you can make like little baby step progress, but you can't take quantum leaps. You can't take like a big jump. All you can do is just keep like, and when we think of ourselves only as these physical beings, then we're just strictly matter. And the only option that we have is to work hard and to, strive and to, often, attempt to strive, but, you end up, really, suffering or just sustaining as you go along. Can you talk a little bit about how the mindset is able to go with quantum leaps or big jumps, whereas the physical part can just, kind of inch along?
Yeah, well, let's take the body again, kind of like you said. It's if you're just focused on the physical part, that's like a woman. And again, sorry, Steve, I know you're a man and you probably have some of this too, but I relate because I've worked with them. But that's like a woman that says, I want to be thinner and I need to look a certain way because, I'll feel better when I do. When I can fit in those jeans, that's it. I'm going to go after what I want. And so every day she gets up and every day her mindset is like, push hard, push hard, push hard. I'm going to run. I'm going to starve myself and I'm going to get that done. That's like kind of working in the matter. And it's going against yourself, because will that happen? Probably. Will you maintain it? Probably not. And will you deplete yourself? Absolutely. So when you can take it into the quantum and start to set the mind and the heart, because there's science out there now that there is brain heart coherence and that can happen. So when you can work more in the heart and every morning and say, you know what? The universe, God, Krishna, Buddha, whatever you want to call that higher, greater thing that you connect to, gave me life. I have a life right now. And there's a reason, there's a purpose for it. I really want to feel better and make my physical vessel my temple. And so I'm going to honor it. And by honoring it, I'm going to go run. And by honoring it, I'm going to eat better. It's a connecting, plugging more into the vastness of who you are, and letting the heart and the brain connect. And so then you're in more of that quantum world, and versus just kind of plugging into not really nothing, your own power source that depletes itself.
Raised in a Christian family, we said a prayer before meals. Just real recently reading something, maybe it was the biology of belief, the idea that the food, the nourishment, and, looking at the food and like bringing it into your body as something that is, kind of has a spiritual connection to it.
Yeah.
It's like it suddenly has the power to, become more nutritious for you. And it's like when you play nice music to flowers, and flowers grow better because they're, they have a nice atmosphere, and people have gone by and like would say like nasty things to plants, like kind of do an experiment, and like these plants wilted. And so it's like, oh my gosh, this quantum part is much more than just than we know. And you mentioned it, the science is coming more and more. The Heart Math Institute, all these places doing research now, that it's like such an awakening. So you said like 2007 was your moment where you kind of began your awakening. What happened back then that triggered that and allowed you to start that? I don't know this story at all. Are you willing to share it?
That's a great question. I had my second child in 2007.
Okay.
So I guess you can say in 2000, I started having more of that awakening because I had my first child. And I was a woman who was that was not in my reference, it was like, I am just going to be a famous actor, singer, dancer, and that's what I want to do with my life. And I want to entertain people. I never had this concept of having kids, believe it or not. And so in 2000, I had my son. That was like a little bit of crack in the door. Mm-hmm. And then in 2007, it was my daughter. And I thought, okay, it was almost like that rooted me. I don't know why. I was really working with the body then, but in 2007, I started studying nutrition and how nutrition and mindset correlate with the body. And I was really getting more and more depleted by 2007. I had digestive issues. I had some, stuff going on, female issues going on. And I thought, okay, I'm taking every supplement I can. I'm eating really, really clean. I'm exercising, and I still have this issue. And so I couldn't understand why. I don't know how much time I have, so I'm going to hurry up this story. But this was like the moment I had, like, it was one of those, when I say eye-opening, I was walking out of my local health food store. And I kept saying every day, like, what is going on? I have these issues, but I'm doing the right things. And I had my cart full of groceries. And on the very top were my eggs. And I went outside with my cart. I was by myself. And I, between the store and my car, was where the cars go, kind of like a passing cars. So all of a sudden, my eggs fall out off the top of my cart and on the ground and right where all these cars come. And it was like, in that moment, time stands still, it stops. And I thought, oh my gosh, my eggs just fell. Crap. So I kneel down to pick up my eggs, and I see kneeling with me, really, I'm a shoe girl. So if a guy's wearing nice shoes, I'm like, oh, he's hot. So just so you know, I noticed these shoes were right near me, and I look at this black dress shoe, and I look up, and there's this, he was a man of Indian descent with long black hair and these gorgeous eyes. And he was like right there, and he was putting my eggs back in the carton. Now, none of my eggs broke. And he looked at me in the face and he said, you just have to open your heart. And in the moment, I was like, time standing still. I'm trying to get the eggs. And, oh, what if a car's coming? That's my, and he puts the eggs back. He hands them to me. And I see him walk towards this truck that was like a green truck, really beat up, brought holes in it. And I thought, the truck doesn't go with his outfit at all. And so I start pushing my cart again, and I realized what just happened. It was like, time just readjusted again. And I look back again to say, like, thank you. And that truck was completely gone out of this parking lot, like in an instant. So I got in my car and I said, that was an angel. That, to me, that was an angel, because God knows I like nice shoes and a really hot looking guy. So, so there was this angel that said, open your heart, Ondrea. So I started to look like, what does this mean? Open my heart. What does that mean? And then I started to just go in more into the spiritual understanding of what does that mean to open your heart? And how is this going to help me? And believe it or not, years later, especially writing this book and everything that's come together in this book, The Blueprint, is what I did for myself. So I know it works, but my digestive issues got better. My female issues got better. So I was like, all I had to do is open my heart, but it's not like it happens like this. It's all a process, right?
Yeah. When I was, for 15 years, I was working for Bubba Gump as Forrest Gump, just having fun. All I had to do is show up on the weekend and have fun. That was, and I had to learn how to show up and have fun, because if you just show up unready to have fun and not being in a good physical and mental space when you show up, you can't have fun. And so I learned how to do that. Then that was coming to an end. And this movie, from the 1 million interactions that I had, I just knew this movie touched people's heart and soul in a way that an average movie does not. So I thought, well, how do I continue what I've been doing, but kind of in the new version of it? And so I ended up saying, I'll be a speaker. And then I realized that I didn't like I said, oh, okay, I'll be a speaker. And I realized I didn't have any message. I didn't know what I stood for and what I believed. And it was that moment when I went, oh my gosh, I have to do my own inner work, and I have to decide what I believe. I kind of thought I knew what I believed, but I really didn't. It was like all stuff that was left over from the last 40 years, 45 years that was carried forward. And did I really believe it? What parts of it did I believe and what parts didn't? And so as I began the journey, the very first thing I realized is I needed to do my own work in terms of how to, come to an understanding of who it is, what I believe, so that I can talk to people about this. That took a long time, actually. That wasn't as easy as, and I was trying to do it with this part here.
Yeah.
And it really wasn't until 2013, the end of 2013, that I had this kind of transformative moment when this part became, the heart became alive again. And it had a story from, 40, there was two stories. One was 30 years old, one was 40 years old. And they were the ones that shut down the heart and really put me into the head, and so and I'm doing that. So anyway, it's like, no, I didn't have a woman with nice shoes, driving an old car who disappeared, but I did have I did have one particular moment where it was like, oh my gosh. And really the thing that happened with me is I went, oh my gosh, it's been me. It hasn't been them. It's been me.
Yes, that's the key. And that's the key, Steve. So thank you for bringing that up, because so many times we're looking externally for our worth, and it's not externally at all. It's all inside. And, I'm sure people are sick of hearing this message, but are we getting it yet?
Yeah. So one of the fun things about becoming starting the American Gumption morning show and being part of the Spirituality Gone Wild team is that I get to meet cool people, fun people like yourself who get this kind of thing. And so this is what we talk about. I know you are on a show on Unify on Saturday mornings, and that's how it's through that we ended up meeting. Can you just tell the audience a little bit about what that is all about?
Sure. Saturday mornings, the show is called Women Rising, and it's really to inspire women to, rise into their own power, into their own worth, into what they feel they are called here to do, on earth. No more fears and no more blocks. We have to start to, fluently move around them. It doesn't mean they won't be there. They're going to be there, but how can we, gracefully kind of dance around those now?
It's funny. There's all these women's group who are banding together, and there's never any men's. There maybe the men's groups are left over from the the 18th century, and we're like, hey, that ain't cool. We don't want to go hang out with that. But I end up meeting these women's groups that they talk. They're willing to talk and share, and it's not that men don't want to do it, but we're that's one of those things where it's trained out of us as youngsters, as boys, that, hey, boys don't cry. You don't talk about your feelings, that sort of thing. And that's a disservice that, maybe that will change. But anyway, I end up hanging out with these women's groups, and I'm like, oh, these people are pretty cool. So I encourage anybody who wants to just get a broader perspective on what's going on. And what's fun about it is that it's like a free for all. There's usually a panel of you ladies, 4 or 5 or 6, something like that. And somebody launches some topic, and then everybody kind of just takes a turn on it. And it's like some of it's shocking,
Really? Oh, that's interesting to know.
It just gives you a
different way to look at things.
Of what, how you ladies think. So, which is cool, because us dudes, we think differently, we think differently. So,
yeah. But I feel like the most important thing for all of us, whether we're women or men, is, to kind of like what I said before, going in and just understanding who you are, not from what your parents said or your teacher said, but who you are as a soul, and stop looking for external things to fill us. But it's important right now, whether you're male or female, to figure out what's going on in you, in your brain, and start training, and devoting to you. And even if that's 5 minutes a day, that is more than enough right now.
We're going to come to the end here, but wrap up by talking one more time about the mind, body, and soul, and how the three of them all have their own purpose and how they all need to interconnect with each other, and your philosophy that way. That'd be a great way to, I think.
Yeah. Well, okay. So how about I'll just end with, in the book, we talk about how unworthiness shows up. And the blueprint is about remembering your worth. So it's going back to the basic model. And so how are you moving your body with the intention of worthiness? There's different parts of your body that are metaphysically vibrating to different frequencies, such as your butt, believe it or not, is the seat of your power. So if you don't feel like you have power, your own inner power, not towards somebody else, then start to work the muscles in the glutes. And so that's like a way to, okay, let me align the body. And the mind is like becoming aware of what are the subconscious thoughts that are going on there? Because in the brain, it has so much plasticity that you can change the way it's functioning, upgrade the software system. So now it starts to send signals through your whole body that says, hey, you know what? I feel worthy. And so then your whole system, endocrine, reproductive, circulatory, all that gets an upgrade. And then you think better, usually you start to eat better. But then if you start to fill the body with foods that are vibrating, that literally come from our Mother Earth. She is she's our survival source. You feed it and you raise the vibration of your mind, you raise the vibration of your body, and then you start to devote a few times a day to just quieting the mind and stilling the body so that you can connect to the greaterness of who you are. And that's how all of those kind of come, you tune the dials so they're all at the same frequency. And then next thing you know, you're like, wow, I've really come a long way.
Yeah. So when we invite you back, we're going to maybe do an experiment on myself, and what I had my right knee was always like temperamental, and about 2 years ago it kind of blew out to where it became kind of gimpy. And so as I finished my journey in Montana and left, I struggled that last year with this knee that wasn't cooperating, and I've been really like trying to connect with it on a mind level. And I'm beginning to see the connection between me wanting to go in my career and me not going, like me hesitating. And we'll just say it a different way, playing small,
yes,
as opposed to playing big. And so now I'm finally, I cleaned up a lot of the stuff that was holding me back. And now I'm out there, and the knee is actually starting to go, like respond to it. And I'm beginning to believe that, because I wasn't moving in my career and what I wanted to do, my body sort of gave out in a certain way. So I don't know.
Definitely that. And it also ties into the energetic. You were connecting to the character of Forrest Gump. He already had a leg issue. You were connected to that for 15 years, right? So in a way, you were thinking the same way Forrest Gump was thinking. And so that will also impact that knee.
I never connected that part of it. So this is good. Well, we'll talk about that, and we'll get myself nice and healthy.
Okay.
And I'll be out there and my career's going. So, hey, thank you so much. This is a lot of fun. I would encourage everybody to get the book. Let's see if I can throw it up.
Yeah, it's on Amazon, the Born Enough book. And also, I just want to tell everybody that if you go to my website, which is scrolling, thank you, Steve, at the bottom here, OndreaLynn.com, and you subscribe to the free video series, what you'll get is the first video is about unwinding the trauma in the one secret muscle that is within the body, the muscle that holds the trauma. And so there's a couple exercises to start the unwinding process.
So they just go to your website, and where is it? What's it called?
Click on the video, and I'll take you through it. Yep.
There it is. And get the book. I got the book. It's great.
Thank you.
And so thank you so much for joining us this morning, and we'll wish you a great day, and we'll ask you to come back again and join us some other time. And then please listen on Saturday morning. It's what time on the East Coast does the show typically start? Around 11-ish?
11 o'clock. Yep. Eastern Standard Time. It goes for an hour.
It goes for an hour. So it's a lot of fun. And it runs on Spirituality Gone Wild. You can see it there, but I think it originates on Unify, but they're all there. You'll find it. So
we'll find it. Thank you, Steve. Thanks to everyone who took the time to watch.
All righty. Well, good. Well, thanks again. We'll see you. Hopefully we'll see you again here as a guest on our show.
Thanks.
All righty.
Bye.
All right. So thank you, Ondrea. That was great. All right. Well, so that's going to wrap up today's show. We had a lot of fun, insightful. I did a few extra things that I wasn't planning to do in terms of sharing, and I really appreciate that Ondrea was able to, guide us through that. The mind, the mind, body, and the soul. And it's funny. There's always a trilogy. So. In Christianity, it's the Father, the Son, the Spirit, and in Gumption, it's the way you think, your mind, the way you act, and the way you interact with others. So your thoughts, actions, and interactions. And in the movie Life Lessons, the three are the opportunity, the choice, and the journey. So the feather, the chocolate box, and the shoe. So the opportunity, choice, journey. So it's always a trilogy that goes, but it really starts with the mind, body, and soul as the foundation in what is going on. Well, that's it today, folks. I appreciate everybody coming by. Thank Ondrea for joining us. On Friday morning, we have Bettina Carey joining us. That's going to be a fun interview, I know for sure. And tomorrow I'm still working on a guest, so we'll just have to see what happens for tomorrow. It'll be like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. So, alrighty, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow then.